Hey friends, what's going on? It's the one and only Sola the Legend here on another episode of the Make Your Life Matter motivational series. Tonight I want to talk to you about what you really want, how to identify what you really want. You know, down through my years of working with clients and followers and doing workshops and traveling and preaching and having friends, doing life, dealing with myself, and my God, raising 7 humans who are transitioning into adulthood now. I have 5 adult children, 2 more very close on the way. And so I found myself a lot of times having to help people identify what they actually want. It has been my observation that people have a difficult time identifying what they really want. And so what happens a lot of times, see, for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, for you to transition out of a situation that you don't want to be in or something that you don't like, something that you find undesirable, unpleasant, stressful, what have you, you have to be able to identify what the destination is. Okay, you don't like this, but what do you like? I don't want this, I want that. I don't like that. You know, a lot of people say, I hate my job. Okay, well, where do you want to work? What would you do to earn income if you could do anything you wanted to do? Uh, People will complain about where they live, but not know where they really want to live. They'll complain about what's wrong in a relationship, but not know how to identify what would make the relationship feel good. And so for you to transition out of something that you don't want into something that you do want, you have to be able to identify what you want. You have to be able to state it, identify it, lock in on it, and walk toward it. Make a plan for that, right? And so a lot of times when I ask people what they want, this is how they'll answer me. They answer me with what they think they can actually have, what they're willing to settle for, or what they think their options are, right? And so let me give you an example of a like kind of conversation that happened. There was somebody who needed transportation. That, you know, they were in a bad transportation situation, car was breaking down, whatever. And I asked them what they wanted. And the immediate answer was, well, I can get an old car. I can get an old used car if I had about $1,000. I didn't ask you what you could get. I asked you what you wanted. And he was like, well, you know, I want to borrow some money that I don't have to pay back to the bank so I can buy this old car with cash. No, that's still not what I'm asking you. Now you're telling me what you think a possible solution is for something you're willing to settle for. Let me ask you again. If you could have anything you wanted right now, the ideal situation to rectify your transportation issue, money wasn't an issue, all options were on the table, what do you want? Well, I would like so then at that point, he named the exact car that he wanted. Well, I want this car. This is how I want to get it. Boom, 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 boom. So it took me asking 3 different times for him to even be able to identify what he wanted, because he was answering me based on what he thought his options were. Now, here's the thing about it, right? The reason that he answered me that way is because the car that he wanted is out of his reach. Okay, it was like a luxury. It wasn't anything super expensive, like a Bentley or anything like that. But it was still out of his current reach, and he knew that, which is why he was answering me based on what he thought his options were, or what he was willing to settle for. And I get that, but that's not the way to approach life. You always want to approach your goals and your dreams with the end goal in mind, right? With your desire and your wants in mind, because you don't want to reach for what you're willing to settle for. You don't want to reach for low-hanging fruit. You don't want to reach for what's on the ground. You want to reach for the ideal situation and the ideal outcome. So if you're going to work towards something, work toward what you really want. Don't work for something you don't even want. He's about to work for a car that he doesn't even want to have, right? And since he's already decided in his mind that that's the goal, then that means if that plan worked out and I didn't make him think about what he really wanted, right? That means that he has set a goal for himself to get an old, unreliable car that he doesn't really like. But since that's the goal that he set, see, his emotions don't know the difference. And so since that's the goal that he set and he went after, once he gets that car, it's like, oh, I accomplished my goal. You accomplished your goal of getting something or acquiring something you didn't even want. Okay? And so just because you're not in a position to acquire something at this present time, it does not mean that you should not identify what it is that you actually want. You have to be able to identify what you want so you can move toward that, so you can plan for it. I remember when I was talking to one of my adult sons who just is transitioning and trying to find his way and figure out where he wants to live. Again, I asked him, where do you want to live? Where do you want to live? And his immediate answer was, well, obviously, I need to stay here with you. I didn't ask you where you need to stay. I said, where do you want to live? And he was like, well, I can't live where I want to live. So, it's either you or Dad. So, you just make more sense. So I'm going to stay here with you. So all my kids get mad when I do the boy voice. Sorry. They don't like when I do that voice. But anyway, I'm sorry, babies. But anyway, I had to ask him multiple times. I didn't ask you what your options were. I didn't ask you what you think is available. I asked you what you want. Where do you want to live? If you could have anything that you want right now, what is your ideal living situation? And so when I asked like that, he was able to identify his ideal living situation. Now, just like in the case with the young man who wanted a car, his ideal living situation was not attainable at this current time, just like that car wasn't attainable at this current time. But here's the thing. When you identify what you really want, then that is what you can make a plan to work toward. So if you have to get that $1,000 car along the way, you don't trick your brain and your emotions into thinking you have achieved your goal. You have acquired your desire. Because if that's the goal you set for yourself, then when you acquire this thing that you didn't even really want, you stop working, right? And so that has to be a step toward acquiring what you really want. So in both of these scenarios, once they identified what they really wanted, okay, so you work it backwards. You first identify what you really want, and then you look at what's attainable right now. Okay, this is what I want, but this is the reality of what I can do right now. Now, you know the distance between, or you can measure the distance between what I can actually have right now and what I actually want. Because when you identify what you want and you work your way back to what is actually attainable or possible, probable, right now, you map out a path between what you have right now and what you want to acquire and continue to work toward that. That is why it's so important to identify what you want. You can't always have what you want right now. It doesn't mean you can't have it ever. You might not be able to have it right now, but you can have it eventually. And so, one of my mentors said, one of my favorite quotes is, if it's not on your mind, it's not in your future. If it's not on your mouth, if it's not in your mouth, it's not on your mind, nor will it be in your future, right? It's got to be on your mouth, on your mind, to show up in your future. So it's really important to identify what you actually want. Don't talk about the job you can have right now. Talk about the job you really want. Don't just talk about the house you can have right now or the living arrangement you can have. Make sure you talk about the house you actually want, the relationship you actually want. See, people are really good at identifying what they don't want. We're really great at complaining about what's not working, what we don't like. People talk about hating their job. They can't stand their job. But if I asked you right now, where do you want to work? Or what would you like to do to earn income for yourself? Most people couldn't answer that question. They just know they hate what they're doing right now. And you know why people get into that situation? Because at some point in time, when they were setting a goal for income, they didn't set that goal based on where they wanted to work. They set that goal based on where they thought they could work, what they felt their available options were. And once that was a goal, they stopped working toward what they really wanted because they never identified and clarified to themselves, to their inner self, to their higher self, this is where I want to work. I don't want to work here. I have to work here right now, but this is not where I want to work, and I will not stop here. This is just a step toward where I really want to be, right? So if you don't identify what you really want, where you really want to live, how you really want your relationship to look, what your goals really are, you have to stop talking in terms of what you don't want, what you want to avoid, what you don't like, what you're willing to settle for, what you think is available. We have to deal with reality, of course. Of course, we have to acknowledge what is probable, what is possible, what our reality is. But we don't want to get stuck there. You don't have to live in a reality or stay. You don't have to be sustained in a reality that you don't enjoy. You can create a new reality for yourself. But you first must identify what you want that reality to be. So, I like to give you things to do. I like to give you a little action item sometimes. And what I need you to do is to identify what you want. I want you to think about the things in your life right now that you're not enjoying, whether it's your job, your relationship, your health, your personal goals, your business, whatever it may be, family relationships, where you live, what you drive. I want you to think about everything in your life that you're not enjoying. Remember, this show is called Make Your Life Matter. And part of what makes your life matter is living a life that you actually enjoy. It's enjoying your life. So I want you to identify everything in your life right now that you're not enjoying. Please, I want you to make a list. Write it down. What do you not enjoy about your life? What is it that you don't like? Write it down. And on the other side of that, okay, next to what you're not enjoying, what you don't like about your life, I want you to write down next to it what you want. Not what you think your options are, not what you're willing to settle for, not what you even think is realistic, just what you want. Whatever that is, if you could have the ideal solution to whatever it is that's ailing you or bugging you about your life right now, if you could have the ideal outcome, what do you want? I need you to identify that. Identify it with confidence and boldness and clarity, and write it down on that same piece of paper. So on one half, it'll be what you don't want, what you don't like, what you're not enjoying about your life right now. And then on that same line next to it, leave enough room next to it to write. So you're going to kind of draw a line down this paper, right? On one side, what you're not enjoying about your life, and then right next to it on that same line, the ideal fix. This is what I actually want. So now you're looking at where you are. You're looking at where you want to be. The next thing that you're going to do, right? If you can make 3 columns, that would be really good, even if you made 3 columns. But you can start on a new piece of paper if you can't make 3 columns. The next thing that you're going to identify is what changes you can make right now. What's actually available. So this is what you don't like about your life. This is the ideal outcome, what you really want. You have those 2 things determined. Now, how can you move out of what is bothering you about your life right now? Take a step, make progress toward what you really want. You might not be able to move right from where you are and jump to what you really want, but what can you change about your life or that situation that will move you in a direction of what you really want? So let me make it practical. Let's just say that let's say that you want to move to a different state, right? You want to live in a different state. Yeah, I'm just going to say something really practical right now. If you live on the East Coast right now and you want to move to the West Coast, but you don't have the means to get there right now, what is a step you could take toward transitioning to the West Coast? Because that's the ideal. That's what I want. I want to live in the West Coast, in whatever city. San Francisco. I'm just throwing something out there. You live in New York, you want to get to San Francisco, but you don't have the resources or the means to move cross country right now. Okay, cool. What is a step that you can take to make progress toward that instead of just accepting that will never happen? What could you do? Just off the top of my head, maybe start looking for work from home jobs of companies that are based in San Francisco. Companies that are based in San Francisco that will allow you to work virtually. That's an idea. You could go to school over there, even if it's just a virtual. You could start taking some classes in a school that's located in that area. That's an idea. If you're a person that lives in apartments, if you don't have a house and you don't have, roots, this is kind of radical. But let's just say you're in a situation where you're a single person or you don't have any really good roots where you are. Maybe you can move a little closer. You can't get all the way over to California right now, but you can move a little closer. Move a little closer. Let's see, my geography is bad. I'm trying to think where you could move from New York. Like, what's the next state over you could move that would get you closer to the West Coast? I feel so exposed right now. See, I gotta stop and check. Come on, Google, you cutting up. Map of the U.S. I may not know, but I know how to look it up, baby. So, okay, so you could move to Ohio, right? That would get you a little bit closer. Spend a year in Ohio. Maybe the next year you could move on over to Illinois. Next year you could move on over to Nebraska or something, if you're willing to live in any of those places. Now that's kind of radical. That was a weird, I don't know. As far as analogies go, I don't think that was my strongest analogy. That wasn't great. But you get the picture. You get the point. You can start to make progress toward living where you really want to live. Because now that you've identified what you actually want, you identify what you're not happy with. You're not happy with where you currently live. You've identified the ideal outcome to be able to live over in this other city. And now you're going to start to take action. You're going to change something. I can't get all the way to California right now, but I don't have to stay in New York, right? And I can move a little bit closer. And I can work virtually over there. I can maybe start to visit. Just all kinds of things that you can do. And so be stuck where you are. So when my son told me his ideal living situation, what he really wanted, he said that he would like to have a roommate and live with one of his friends. There was a city he wanted to live in, actually his current city. He wanted to stay there and he wanted to have a roommate. I said, well, are there any friends that you have right now that you would actually live with that you think is in a position to get an apartment with you? And he said no. And I said, well, do you know who that friend would be? And he was like, yes. He was like, there's a couple that I'd like to live with. And I said, okay. So that's not attainable today, but it doesn't mean that you can't work toward that. Why don't you talk to those friends, see if they want to get an apartment together, and if that's something that you all want, now you can plan toward it. 18 months from now, for the next 18 months, you guys can work, save, you can decide what area you want to live in, find out how much it costs to live there. In the meantime, you guys can stay where you're at, share your plans with your parents if they're all living with their parents, save up the money toward that. 18 months from now, you guys should have the money and the resources to move into this apartment together. Boom. Now you got a plan toward that. Now, they'll still want to do that in 18 months because you never know it. With young adults, they change their mind like they change underwear. But the important thing was that I helped him identify what he actually wanted and got him out of what he wanted and got him out of the mindset of responding based on what he thought was available or what his options were. And he was able to identify what he wanted, and we made a plan toward that. So that's what I want you to do, guys. I need you to identify and speak out of your mouth what you actually want and start to move toward that. So the assignment is, again, get a piece of paper, draw one or two or three columns on that piece of paper. If you can draw 3, do 3. On one side and one column, you're going to write down anything you don't like about your life right now. Just itemize it. I don't like my job. I don't like where I live. I don't like my relationship. I don't like how I look, whatever. Anything about your life that is making you feel unhappy, stressed, sad, depressed. Next to that, you're going to write what you actually want. What would fix that situation for you? What's the ideal outcome? And then next to that, or on the next piece of paper, but with the same coinciding number, what are some steps that I can make toward that? What's available to me right now? What is something that I can do right now to move toward what I really want to have? Because again, the important thing is, I want to leave you with this. The important thing to remember is that if you work towards something, you set a goal for something, once you acquire it, your brain feels finished. So if you set a goal to acquire something that you don't really want because that's all that was available at the time, your brain feels done. And that's how a lot of people lose sight of their dreams and their goals, because they condition themselves to think only in terms of what is currently available. But don't make a permanent decision based on temporary circumstances. That's what's available right now, not forever. So don't trick your brain into thinking you've accomplished your goals because you set a goal for something that you didn't really want because it was the only thing available at the time. No, sir, no, ma'am. You tell your brain, this is a step that we're going to take right now toward what we really want, which is this other outcome. And then you have to strategize. You have to strategize. How are you going to use this step that you're taking right now to continue to move you toward what you actually want? And I'm telling you, if you do that, you're going to get there. You're going to get there, but you have to start identifying and speaking out what you want, no matter how unattainable it seems. You have to talk in terms of what you want. All right? All right, guys. So this has been Soul Out of Legend on another episode of Make Your Life Matter, where I'm here to help you live a significant, relevant, and legendary life. Make sure you check out my website, guys, souloutoflegend.com. Matter of fact, let me put that up on the screen. souloutoflegend.com. You'll find all of my books there. I got my latest book out. Help My Child Doesn't Want to Live, How to Reach Your Depressed Suicidal Teen. And then last year I wrote Suicidal Love, the kiss that shattered my soul. So a lot of good stuff out there. I got new songs and music out, and hey, there's a lot going on with me, a lot to explore. Got some magazine articles and stuff coming up, so I'm really happy. Things are really starting to pick up traction. So check out my stuff. There's a lot to see. Make sure you follow me on all the socials, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff, YouTube, and share this video. And until next time, remember, only you can make your life